Hello, so in this video we're going to do a walkthrough of the paper 3 geographical applications exam. Now this exam is shorter than the other two papers, it's 1 hour 15 minutes. Now although you can't revise like you did for the first papers with the content you've been taught in lessons for the last couple of years, there are lots of opportunities for you to prepare before the exam to make sure the exam's easy and you can obtain as many of these 76 marks as possible. And there are also SPAG marks available. So in these questions, you need to make sure you're writing in full sentences using capital letters at the start of sentences, place names, punctuation, things like that. So, first of all, it says, for this paper, you must have a clean copy of the pre-release resource booklet. Now, I don't know what your pre-release resource booklet's going to be about. It's going to be about a contemporary, a modern-day geographical issue. And the idea is that you understand this issue and you can apply your geographical understanding, hence the name geographical applications. In the past, we've had pre-releases on water management in the UK. We've had them on tourism in LICs. We've had them on road building in tropical rainforests. It could be anything that's within the specification. This one is about it's about urban issues, basically. All right, so we'll have a look inside it in a moment. Now, you have this in class 12 weeks before the date of the exam. My advice is get to know this really well. So when you get to the exam, you're not hunting around for information. You're like, yep, that's in figure 2 or that's on page 5. A good tip is code this. So you can use the geography code. So social, economic, environmental, and have a colour for each one of these. So it might be pink, get a crayon. If you haven't got highlighters, blue for economic, and pink for environmental. So we got yellow, blue and pink, and then you can go through each one and highlight, oh, that's a social issue, that's an economic issue. So each figure will be 2 pages long. So figure 2, you can see there's the first page, there's the second page, and there tends to be an awful lot of information in here. So we've got some written information talking about how urbanisation is taking place. We've got the rates of urbanisation. You would expect LICs to be urbanising more quickly than HICs because we've already industrialised and most people live in cities. There is then a table of information. They may in the exam ask you to use a measure of central tendency such as mean or median or mode or range on that data, or they might ask you to describe it. The second half of that figure, again, there's another graph that you may well be asked to describe, and there's a choropleth map here. And yeah, they can ask you anything about this. Now, if you go through, all right, you know, you can start highlighting. So what did we say? We said yellow is for social. So this guy here, just picking someone up, Jose Ramirez, left his farm in rural Brazil. He travelled to the city to find work. So straight away he's left his family and his farm to find work. We've got a social and an economic issue there that we can refer to maybe in the exam. The second figure in this particular one is talking about challenges of growth. So here we've got a picture showing waste management not being done particularly well within a city, poor quality buildings, what you'd expect in an LIC, and we've got more graphs, we've got a table, we've got more information over here, and yeah, they can ask you about any of this in the exam. And finally, there's going to be a decision for you to make, all right? So in this particular one, they're talking about Calcutta in India improving the life of the urban poor, and they're talking about all the challenges that the urban poor face. So population density, natural disasters, yeah? And then there is a solution over here. So they're giving you project 1, project 2, project 3, and in the exam there will be guaranteed a 12-mark question that asks you to decide whether you agree with these projects, whether you think they're going to have more opportunities or challenges, and you'll also need to bring in your understanding of social, economic and environmental. Moving up the marks, they will also expect you to have an understanding of the short and long-term impacts, okay, of these schemes. So what are going to be the immediate impacts? Are there going to be any immediate impacts? What about long-term? What scale are we talking? 1 month, 6 months, 5 years? And you need to have an understanding of those as well. And to get to the highest marks, they often ask you to consider the local, the national, and the global implications. Okay, so this is talking about urban areas, but it could be anything. Should we build a new road through Albury? Okay, well, locally, it would cause a lot of social disruption, wouldn't it? Because people would be stuck in traffic and the noise pollution. However, nationally, it would mean that people travelling through Albury are more likely to be able to do it quickly in the longer term. And globally, it might mean that Birmingham and the surrounding area are even more renowned for their international significance because they've got excellent transport facilities. All right, so you will get a resource booklet like that in your exam. Then, if we have a look at the exam itself, so the questions, okay, could be literally any skill that you have learnt about. So the first one is asking about latitude and longitude. So all you would do, you look, it's 1 mark, you've got to get them both correct. You've got to work out whether that's Lagos, or that's Lagos, or that's Sao Paulo, that's Sao Paulo. I'll just do this one with you because it's nice and easy. So if we look at Lagos, it is 6 degrees north of the equator, 3 degrees east. Now you probably know because it's in Nigeria that's Lagos, but we can check. So there's the equator. Yep, it's about 6 degrees north. And there's the prime meridian. Yep, it's about 3 degrees to the east of that. So we know that's Lagos. You could check the other one, but if you're 100% sure on that, you know that's Sao Paulo. So there's your first mark. All right, then there's another question relating to the map, asking you where Jakarta is. And then it's asking you to look at figure 2. All right, so with the help of figure 2, suggest why economic factors may be more important than physical factors when explaining migration to cities in LICs or NEEs. So straight away, I'd be using module coding in figure 2. Economic factors, more important than physical factors. Physical is similar to environmental, so you could put a tree when explaining migration to cities in LICs or NEEs. So you would start off in figure 2, all right? Maybe choose an economic factor. People move to cities because this means that. Explaining, link back to the question using our point, evidence, explain, link paragraphs. Then do the same for physical. Also in figure 2, a physical factor is, suffers from drought, lack of water. This evidence from figure 2, this means that, and then link back to the question. All right. Moving through, this question, nice and easy. A lot of kids forget things like this. All you got to do is colour in that map. Tanzania, 80%, 70 to 80%. There's a nice easy mark for you, doing it like that. Then we've got a multiple choice. Urban population slums living in Ethiopia. Well, there's Ethiopia. Quick look at the key, above 90%. There's another mark for you, easy peasy. This one is counting, so you have to count the amount 80 to 90%, 81 to 90%. Then we got another big question. Study figure 4, challenges of urban growth in LICs, NEEs in the resource booklet. You should already know something about this because you should have read that booklet and be familiar with it. Economic development, so there's our dual coding, creates environmental problems in urban areas and LICs, NEEs. Use figure 4 in your own understanding to discuss this statement. So, making money is bad for the environment in cities. I could tell you, yes, it definitely is. Okay, discuss that statement. So, I would say in figure 4, I would pick something that talks about economic development, making money. This means that. And then I would, in figure 4, pick something that's an environmental challenge. I don't know, air pollution, waste management. This means that. And because it's saying discuss, I would conclude that one in conclusion. All right. It asks for your own understanding. There's nothing stopping you bringing in your case study, which is Rio, which is a city we learn about in an LIC NEA. 6 marks. Moving forward, this is photograph skills. Look at the photograph. So pick something out of the photograph. Right, in photograph A, I can see this could affect health because this means that. Probably going to get you the 2 marks. Another 6 marker using figure 5. All right. Why people live in cities are more vulnerable to natural hazards. Now, this links to hazard risk in your tectonic and weather hazards. You got high population density, lots of people living per square kilometre. Use the figure. This means that explanation. You could have poor quality buildings. That's in the figure. This means that. All right. Again, keep going till you got 6 marks. And this is the biggie. All right. So she's worth 12 marks. It ultimately wants you to decide which of those 3 projects are the best, using evidence from the resource booklet and your own understanding why you have reached this decision. So I'm just guessing project 2. You would write, I think project 2 is the best solution. Could add to some extent because it might not be perfect. Okay, it's looking at improving socio-economic conditions and environmental conditions. So, you know, project 2 does this. This is a social opportunity. This means that. You could compare it to another project. So project 2 does this, however, project 3 doesn't. This means that. And then you would be talking about economic opportunities, environmental opportunities, all the time explaining your points. This means that. And if possible, using your peel paragraphs. Making a point, backing it up with evidence, explain, link. So that's the first half of the paper sorted. The second half is field work. So you need to completely think, right, done, everything to do with the pre-release. I'm going on to field work now. So first thing, you got photographs, physical geography study, it's a river, human geography study, urban area. All right, and it's asking you 2 data collection techniques that you could take out. All right, for one of these areas. So if you go for the river, you could say, measure the width and how it changes downstream. And for the other one could be, how does velocity change downstream? Okay, or how does depth change downstream? All right. It just says identify them, so you don't even need to explain how you would do them for that. Then someone else's field work, it's an isoline graph. Loads of kids get confused with this. Complete the isoline. Well, if that's 100, it's got to go there, hasn't it? Because that's less than 100, that's more than 100. It's got to go around here because that's more than 100, that's less. Down there. So the first mark there, what you're doing is you're drawing the line higher than 100, that side of the line, lower that side. Describe the pattern. We can use our GCSE A here. Generally, the highest amount of pedestrians is around Oxford Circus with 400 people. That's our specific example. An anomaly might be Cavendish Place because it doesn't fit like the kind of concentric pattern, and there's a lot more people go down the end of Cavendish Place. Or you could potentially say another anomaly is south of Oxford Circus because it extends further south. Oxford Street's where they do all the shopping. Why is that? You don't need to know, you're just doing GCSE A. So general comment, most Oxford Circus. Specific example, 400 pedestrians. Anomaly, Cavendish Place, northwest of the map. Rather than going in the same pattern as they do in the middle, it seems to extend west for whatever reason. Alternative method of presenting the data. So data presentation, you could do located proportional symbols. Stick person, the bigger the stick person, the more people. You could potentially, I would just stick with that, to be honest, because when you start using other methods, it's going to get confusing. But what you basically show is a bigger stick person equals more people, and a smaller stick person equals less people. So in the centre, you'd have a big stick person, and around here, you'd have a smaller stick person. Okie doke. Explain why the pattern might not be accurate, shown in figure 8. This is basically issues with methods. People may lose count, people may be double counted, problems with the methodology. You know, was it done just as someone got off a train? Would it be different if no one had just got off the London Underground? Things like that. Another mark here, complete the dispersion graph. You have to plot the data there. Suggest one-way data collection technique could be adapted, more reliable. We'll take larger sample size, collect the samples from different places. Interquartile range, you're putting the data in order, splitting it into 4 quartiles. There's the median. And you're taking away that number from that number, or vice versa. That's the range of the inner 2 quartiles. Describe the pebble size, GCSE A. And this is where you get to your own field work. Now, your teacher will have drummed this into your head. Basically, you need to know everything about that field work. In this exam, they're asking why you used the location. So we went to Cardigan Mill Valley. It was easily accessible by coach. It got maintained footpath, so it was safe. And it had got the physical features that we wanted to measure, which is the river. Physical geography, primary data collected. So we measured the width of the river. We wanted to prove or disprove the Bradshaw model. The equipment was easy to use. The river was safe to access, pulling the tape across taut, and the data was easily collected. So that's primary data that we collected ourselves. This one is human data presentation techniques. So assess how effective your presentation techniques were. Well, presentation is how you represent that data. Okay, so we used located. If you remember, there's the visitor centre. We used located bar graphs to show the environmental quality at each of the sites. Now, it was visually clear because we could see where the data was. It was easy to spot trends and anomalies. All right, and these are things that you could say were good or bad. They're generally good, aren't they, about that data presentation technique. And finally, another big one. For one of your inquiries, to what extent were results of this inquiry helpful in reaching a reliable conclusion? Now, straight away, it's to what extent. I would agree to some extent that the results were helpful in reaching a reliable conclusion. For this, you need to consider, I'm going to do it big across, obviously you wouldn't, and remember, methods give us results, and we base our conclusions on our results. So what you're going to be talking about is, can we trust our conclusions? Well, our trustworthiness of conclusions is based on, move up so you can see, the accuracy of results. So if you're saying your results are accurate, you can trust your conclusions. Our accuracy of results is based on the reliability of our methods. So if you're saying our methods were unreliable, say we're doing the physical one, people drop the measuring tape or they didn't pull it taut, that's going to mean our results are not as accurate. So if our results are not as accurate due to our methods not being reliable, this is going to affect the trustworthiness of our conclusions. And that is how you would answer that question. But again, you'll be doing that in class with your teacher. So quite a big video, but hopefully now you got a bit of a better understanding. You get this 12 weeks before. Half the exam paper is based on this. The other half is based on your fieldwork. All right? Respect.